What the fuck is wrong with my hair? Kind of looks like I got hit, with a big gust of wind going in that direction. See, the difference between me and other people these days is I can agree to disagree with somebody. You might have a view. That's your view. I have my views. Those are my views. You can tell me your views. That doesn't mean I have to accept them to be my truth. You have a truth. I'm not going to sit here and try to convince you to change your mind over anything. Over anything. So let's talk about self-identification for a second. How a person identifies. I think it's a very slippery slope when you decide to start telling other people how they can and cannot identify ethnically, socially, what their sexual orientation or preference is, spiritually, religiously. Those are never good conversations to have on social media, such as whether or not you can identify as Puerto Rican if you were born in the United States versus born on the island. I've been attacked a lot, being told I'm not Puerto Rican because I wasn't born on the island. Well, I'm Puerto Rican American, just like there are Italian Americans, just like there are African Americans or Black Americans, Asian Americans. The point is, if you're born on American soil, you're considered an American. But just because you were born in America doesn't mean your cultural heritage doesn't come from somewhere. Of course it does. It comes from wherever your family's from. There are people that consider themselves pretty Irish, even though they're like the third or fourth generation born in Massachusetts. You'll still see people who have Irish descent, shaking their fist, calling themselves an Irish American. The argument is you can't say you're Puerto Rican just because you feel Puerto Rican. Or if you were born in America and you say you're Puerto Rican, that you're cosplaying. Well, you can't cosplay something that you are by DNA, because science is real. It doesn't lie. And if you're raised in a household of Puerto Ricans that were born on the island, you still have a cultural experience of growing up in a Puerto Rican home. But I'm not here to debate with anybody because I don't give a fuck what you think about me. Your opinions about me don't matter, and your feelings about me still don't matter. But telling people how they can and cannot identify ethnically, never a good idea to do on social media. I got another fucking thing I want to say. I mean, just to open up dialogue and conversation, I've got 2 more examples that I want to speak on about self-identifying. My daughter's Black or African American. She's mixed. I'm white. Her mom is Black. We produced a mixed child. There are a lot of people in the Black community that would say, she's not Black. Oh, you're not Black, you're mixed. However my daughter chooses to identify is how she chooses to identify. She's a person of color. But if she wakes up every morning and looks in the mirror and sees a Black girl and identifies as Black and says, I'm a Black American, I would be highly offended if somebody on the street told her she was not Black. She's having a Black experience. She's going to have a Black woman's experience, even if I'm white. And I would be pretty pissed off at anybody that wanted to come around and shit on my daughter's self-identification, because it's none of their business. Well, let's talk about sexual orientation. Sexual behavior does not equate to sexual orientation. Let me be really fucking clear. There are men who identify as heterosexual, 100% heterosexual, but that doesn't mean that they haven't engaged in sexual behavior with another man. Maybe a man and his wife or girlfriend are swingers. Maybe they pick up a third wheel sometimes. Maybe they fuck around with another couple sometimes. Maybe while all those people are having sex, there are things that happen between the 2 women and the 2 men. But their sexual behavior isn't the same as sexual identification. Because it's an identity. But I'm not going to sit here and argue with someone who says, if you're a man and you've ever had a dick in your mouth, that you're gay or that you're bisexual. Why? Because it's none of my business. It's none of my business how another person identifies ethnically, culturally, sexually, gender identification. Those things don't matter very much to me. I'm just going to take that person's word for it. Someone could grow up in a Catholic household and not be a confirmed Catholic, but be like, I was raised Catholic. Or they could be like, I'm Catholic, my family's Catholic. You know, technically, unless you're a confirmed Catholic, you're not a Catholic. But I'm still not going to tell somebody how they can and cannot identify spiritually. So like I said before, getting into arguments with people about how they identify, not a good idea on social media. So here's the last thing I'm going to say about like identifying as Puerto Rican or a Puerto Rican American. If an entire family moves from Haiti to the United States, migrates from Haiti to the United States, and bear children, I'm pretty sure if they grow up in a Creole household that they're going to identify as Haitian. They're going to identify as American, but they're going to identify as Haitian American. Because there's a big difference of growing up American and growing up Haitian American because you're ethnic. Let's talk about trans people for a second. At what point in time does someone identify as being trans or not? Ooh, you see what I mean about being very, very careful about telling people how they can and cannot identify about anything socially, ethnically, cultural heritage, sexual identification, race, political, religious. A trans woman or a trans man will tell you that they have always been trans, even if they walked around on the street for 15, 20, or 30 years, not transitioning, still doesn't mean that person is not trans. Now, I think the goal of being trans, openly trans, is that you're transitioning to the gender of your identification. But not everybody can afford to transition because it's expensive. If you were born female, you have to get top surgery, you have to go on hormones, testosterone. If you were born male, you might have to have implants, electrolysis, you have to get on hormones. But you can't tell a trans woman that she's not a trans woman if between her legs she still has male parts. And you can't tell a trans man who's walking around on the street because he doesn't have testicles that he's not a trans man. So the whole argument about who can and cannot identify as anything is always going to be a losing argument. You're never going to win it. You just have to embrace and understand that it's your opinion. And the more you double down on your opinion, an opinion like that might be offensive to other people, is never a good idea to play with on social media. So anyway, I didn't mention any names because it doesn't matter. And the person who brought, this whole conversation onto the platform yesterday is a friend of mine. But just because they're a friend of mine doesn't mean I have to agree with all of their views. I can agree to disagree with somebody about anything I want. Doesn't mean I'm not going to be their friend. Doesn't mean I'm not going to work with them. Not unless they want to come at me and viciously attack me for some reason. Then they can go fuck themselves.